Okay, dear students and viewers, this lecture has been recorded in English medium, but I'm inviting the students and viewers from both the mediums at the same channel. The theme is very significant but unique. That is about the movies. Two films or movies have been released from South India, and they have made the waves in box office. Very hit movies, you can say, Kantara and PSI. But my students and viewers, you may be a bit perplexed to think that possibly Manikant Sir has taken the role of the film critic as well. No. Actually, here I am not playing the role of a film critic. You may read my title, Kantara and PSI, Debate on Hinduism. My students, it is almost tormenting me if whenever some movie or important novel is being released in India recently, so it is sparking a very intense debate, as well as debate is the good thing, but controversy and some sort of bitterness. The, verbal war, accusation and counter accusation. So that's why, my students and viewers, once again, which is just implied in Indian culture, I have brought the issue and I have placed the issue in your court. Ball is now in your court to decide what is Hinduism and what is not. First of all, I should draw my attention to the debate or controversy which arose after releasing of the movies. These are the two different movies, but debate is the one and the same. Whether is it representing Hinduism or it is something different from Hinduism. Firstly, I am taking the case of Kantara. Really a super movie, and in this movie particularly a local mythology of Tulu culture. It has been filmed and televised so artistically. It will definitely enchant the audience. And particularly these days, from South India, a series of movies have made waves in box office. Even the Bollywood is lagging behind this movie of South India presently. So in Kantara movie, you will find there is some forest god. You can better to call a spirit god there, and that was associated with the Tulu culture, Tulu Adivasi culture there. And in this movie, because I have watched this movie with proper attention, even you people may have, so I'm drawing attention to the phenomena. There is some local king who is moving in the forest. He was impressed with a spirit god and just inviting him to his own, kingdom. But this god has placed a condition: he will give this land to the people. And there was some sort of contact between the two. And then finally, you can say, king returned with the god. But instead, the king was supposed to accept a very siegeable part of the forest land and get it reserved for the tribal people who were just living there. So in this way, the movie started. But in course of time, his successors or progeny developed a sense of greed. We have to own the land again, because definitely his forefather has committed a mistake for giving the donation of such a rich land, and this land could be commercially better utilized. In this way, you can say that this movie starts and it has taken the turn. Then comes the story of Bhoot Kola. Bhoot Kola. Bhoot is the spirit, Kola is the play. So actually, every year in the local rituals, Bhoot Kola was being placed, and some people was playing the role of a local god, and that is known as Panjurli, that is the forest god. Now, my students and viewers, it is better for you should watch the movie yourself, and many of you have watched the movies, I can expect, so there is no question of discussing about the theme. we have not to, you can say, spend here the time on discussing the theme. The main problem is that this actor and director Rishabh Shetty, he has given the statement. This is the part of Hinduism. But he was duly countered by a local Kannada actor and activist. And this Kannada actor and activist has countered this view. He told ki no, this is wrong. Actually, this is an initiative on the part of Hinduism to appropriate the Tulu Adivasi culture. It is basically a Tulu Adivasi culture. It is not wise to characterize it as Hinduism. So this is the one thing. Leave it here. I'm drawing the attention to another movie. And the second one movie is the very, you can say, illustrious and movie carrying an epic story of Raja Raj. And that is a Cholan king, you know. Maniratnam, he was himself, you can say, a very reputed director. Sometime I myself was surprised that South India was having a rich heritage of history. But still, why didn't that director of South India make an attempt to, just develop some movie on the important themes on Cholas, Pallavas, even Rashtrakutas? They are the very important dynasties. And even the people of North India might have come to know about the South Indian culture in the better way. But Maniratnam has done this and performed this historical role. There was a local Tamil play, that was Tamil novel, that is written by Kalki in the same name. And here you find the name of the movie, that is PS-1. The full form is Ponniyin Selvan. So this Ponniyin Selvan is the movie, the name of the movie Ponniyin Selvan, and that is the, I think, a sequel is also awaited by the audience. Very soon the sequel would be also filmed and televised. But my students and viewers, here the main concern about this movie is not the theme, because Raja Raj, the history of South India, conflict between, Pandyas and Cholas, all are the part of history. The main controversy started from the fact that there is the statement by someone that Raja was a Hindu king. And this was countered by a very reputed director. He was the award-winning director, and you might have heard the name Petty Maran. He countered this view. And then Kamal Hassan also made the same statement, no, it is wrong. The Cholan king Raja should not be characterized as the Hindu king. Basically, he was a Sava king. And he was a Savite. Then there is American scholar, and he has also given the statement, if you are just characterizing or giving the status of a Hindu king to Cholan ruler Raja, it was some sort of a wrong notion, because anachronistic adventure or endeavor on the part of here, the person who is just trying to characterize it as a Hindu king. Characterize him as a Hindu king because he was not a Hindu king. He was basically a South Indian king, and here the Hindu identity is being planted on him from above. So, my students and viewers, these are the basic controversy. So, I am just drawing attention to the controversy, and I am just carrying you to this debate, and debate is what is Hinduism, because it has created some sort of ugly scene, even took some legal battle. So I think my audience would better come to know about the nature of Hinduism, whether it was a constructed religion. If it is a constructed religion, it is very easy to characterize it, what is Hinduism and what is not. But if it was an evolved religion, and it is the product of the assimilation among the different local sects as well as the mainstream sects, so then it is very difficult to prove that this is not Hinduism and that is not Hinduism. So I am just carrying you to the pages of history, and just try to make you clear what is Hinduism. What is Hinduism? First of all, or the first one sentence I have just written here, a vast ocean where various streams merge. Hinduism is not a uniform religion, but it is just like a vast ocean, various streams, various sects, they are just merging into Hinduism. Not, you will just try to compare Hinduism with Abrahamic religion. Abrahamic religion means Judaism, Christianity, Islam, etc. Will come to realize its feature. You will not find any definite priest class here, not a definite code of conduct, not any established code of conduct, nor even a holy book like Holy Quran or Bible, etc. In this way, you can say that Hinduism is not having the nature we normally find in case of Abrahamic religion. Now the question arises, if you might have noticed the statement of Kamal Hassan. Kamal Hassan has drawn the attention to the phenomena. In fact, Hinduism, if you are calling Raja as Hindu sect, so it is anachronistic in nature because at his time Hinduism didn't exist. And he has further told Hinduism is basically, that is, the term has been coined by the British. So here we have to make an assessment of the veracity of the claim. KG tried to say that it has been coined by the British or not. So here, my students and viewers, I am just drawing your attention to the term Hindu. Come to the pages of history, even you might have realized one thing. The Hindu term is basically used in a geographical context. And credit here is being given to the Persian rulers who started to use the term, the Persian scholars, you can say. Those people who are living just, you can say, the other side of the river Indus, so they are Hindus. And same term was popularized later by Arabs. So even the Arabian scholars were using the term Hindus, but they were using the term Hindus in geographical term, in geographical context. But now the question arises, leave it here. Now I am carrying you to the existing religions of India. Whosoever is using the term Hinduism, so they are using the term like Sanatan religion. Definitely Sanatan religion, you can say. But Hinduism emerged as a result of an assimilative process. So let us observe first of all Harappan civilization. Harappan civilization or Indus Valley civilization. My students and viewers, I am just drawing your attention to Harappan civilization. There you have observed the worshipping of Pasupat Shiva, mother goddess, even the phyllis worship, tree cult, animal cult, fire cult, etc., etc. But it is quite wrong to characterize them as pre or proto-Hinduism. Leave it here. Then comes the turn of Vedic Aryans. Vedic Aryans. Once again, you can say it was going to spark a debate whether the Vedic Aryans were the indigenous people of India or they came from outside. So it became today it became a political question. So normally the scholars, they are viewing Aryans as the indigenous people or outsiders. So they are just taking it as the part of a political debate. So leave it here. But you can say the main stream of historiography still favors the same idea till it is not going to be refuted by some conclusive evidence. The Vedic Aryans were definitely, they came from the outside. On the basis of present source, you can say even the genetic studies and the genetic footprint is going to prove it from Kazakhstan, etc. So they were the outsiders, but what was their religion and God? They started from polytheism. Polytheism. Polytheism means in Rig Vedic period and later Vedic period, you will find the multiplicity of gods, a number of gods. So polytheism was there. Apart from that, the cult of sacrifice. Here, my students and viewers, I am just drawing your attention to the phenomena. Some scholars, they are just trying to prove that Vedic Aryans, when they came from outside, they didn't bring with them the cult of sacrifice, what you know as yagya. They didn't carry it to India. Rather, this cult of sacrifice was prevailing in the local people, because even in Indus Valley civilization, you have heard the two sites like Lothal and Kalibanga. From there, you have unearthed the evidence of fire altars. So obviously, you can see that this fire cult was prevailing there, what you know as yagya or sacrifice, and the Vedic people might have appropriated it. It is true. It seems to be true, because in humanities, nothing is full and final in humanities subject, and there is always a scope for the debate. Always, you can say, I have always, my students and viewers, I have always tried to enlighten you about the phenomena in social sciences and humanities. The multiplicity of ideas are the common feature. Debate and discussion is the very normal part of the subject, and if you are not allowing discussion and debate, then the subjects would simply vanish or die. So we cannot, you can say, disallow the debate and the different points of view while making a study of the humanities subject. So here polytheism, but you people have just come to know whenever you are just moving further, I am just from polytheism, taking polytheism, but up to the era of Upanishads, you come to know that they developed monism. Monism is just like, you can say, even the very, you can say, polished form of monotheism. Monism, that is in Hindi, that is called Advaitvad, means ki Brahma and soul is one and the same, and it has completely denied the polytheism and talking in terms of a single god. But one thing is common in Vedic religion, you might have realized that there is no scope for idol worship, and even in the era of polytheism, means that the Vedic religion, the gods were being invoked through mantras. But you cannot imagine that God is standing here in the form of a statue. So you will not find any statue was being manufactured at that time in order to represent the gods. So you will, anthropomorphic representation was almost absent in the Vedic period. Then comes the next one term. Now you are just coming to Buddhism, Jainism, and and the multiplicity of sects like Ajivikas and many other sects. Up to 6th century BC, the multiplicity of sects became the common phenomena, and particularly against the Vedic sacrifice and revolts and the Vedic religion, the revolt started by the different sects, and one of the target was the sacrifice itself, because the sacrifice was being denounced by Upanishads first, then Buddhism, Jainism, and many other sects just denounced them. But here, my students and viewers, here I have to make you clear. It is true that multiplicity of sects became the common feature in 6th century BC, but they were within the fold of Aryan religion itself. Means it was not coming from the non-Aryan cults. They existed in the fold of Aryan religion itself, whether it may be Buddhism, Jainism, or many other sects. Then comes the turn of Maurya period. Just go through the pages of history, you will just easily reach to Maurya period. There you come to know about the Dhamma of Ashoka. So in Dhamma of Ashoka, what is the specificity of Dhamma of Ashoka? Here I have not to delve deep into the nuances of Dhamma, because it was having some political, economic, and other motives as well, because it was propounded by a ruler, not by a prophet or not by a saint. But one of the features of the Dhamma, Ashokan Dhamma or the Dharma, was the assimilation, the unity in diversities. It just tried to assimilate the features from different sets and develop some sort of uniformity. But even initiative on the part of Ashoka was just to spread the Aryan culture in non-Aryan areas and different areas in order to extend the influence of monarchy in different areas. So leave it here. Up to this period, up to Maurya period, from Vedic period onwards, you will find the multiplicity of sects, polytheism to monotheism, even cathnotheism or henotheism, polytheism, henotheism, monism. You can ask me the question ki what is henotheism or cathnotheism. In fact, if you are started to worship the different gods, but you are taking each of them as superior alternatively, sometime to Brahma, sometime to Vishnu, sometime to other god, alternatively, so that is called cathnotheism. So in fact, between polytheism and monism, cathnotheism is supposed to be a phase of transition. Then comes the turn of monism. So we just come up to Maurya period. Then we are coming to post-Maurya. Post-Maurya. We are coming to post-Maurya. This is the very colorful period from the point of view of the new developments in religion, because it was the time there was the, you can say, expansion of Aryan culture in non-Aryan area, because the phenomena of land grants started, and initiative was taken first by Satvahana kings. Initiative was taken first from South India itself, Satvahana kings, and then the land grants started, and as the result of the land grants, the Brahmins and the Buddhist monks, they were planted on the peripheral region or the far off regions, and they started to allure the tribal people to come into Vedic fold or the Aryan fold or the Varna system. So gradually you can say that Aryan culture was spread to that areas, and there was the assimilation between the two. But my students and viewers here come to know that give and take was the, here you can say there was the free give and take, and it was not unilinear, it was multilinear, you can say. In what way? So if Brahmins and Buddhist monks try to, you can say, catch up the attention of tribals to their own religion, so tribals were having, or the tribal people were having their own perception of religion, and what today you know as Bhaktism. So the Bhaktism was appropriated from the tribal elements by Brahmanic elements, So actually, although it was a matter of debate and controversy from where the Bhaktism emerged, because some Western scholars like A.L. Basham and even Grierson, so they have tried to prove that in fact the Bhaktism was the byproduct of the Western religion or the European religion like Christianity. Grierson, he even tried to prove that it was the product of Christianity. But this view have been duly rejected. So there is no question of Christianity giving birth to Bhaktism in India. But on the basis of the latest research, it has almost been proved that in fact Bhaktism was prevailing among the tribal people, and the same Bhaktism just gradually started to influence the mainstream sects and religions in India. So it was during this period, my students, that is in post-Maurya period, the three important features emerged. One feature was Bhaktism. And second one was, the concept of reincarnation, what you know as Avatarvad. That is called Avatarvad, Bhaktism, Bhaktivad and Avatarvad. And then come the turn of idol worship. Idol worship means Murti Puja. And the idols of the Brahmanic gods, the Buddhist gods, you can say the Buddha and Bodhisattvas and the Jaina Tirthankaras, they came to be worshipped. And there was the deification of the different elements in the field of religion. So my students, all the three features, Bhaktism, reincarnation. Bhaktism means it is surrender to a personal God and to express the love for him. That is Bhaktism. That is different from sacrifice. In sacrifice, you are pronouncing mantras, and you are confident about the fact that ki mantras are having the strength to compel the god to give boon to you. So in mantras, there is no question of making surrender. But in case of bhaktism, you are making the total surrender before an individual god, and then you are expecting from the god that God will just take care of you. So this is bhaktism. Then comes the turn of reincarnation. Why did the concept of reincarnation? Reincarnation because there were a number of non-Aryan gods were prevailing. There was the Brahmani gods were there also, So now the question arises ki how to make a synthesis between the two. Because if the tribal people have to be allured to adopt the Varna fold and to accept the mainstream religion, the place would be created even for their gods and the religious perception. So it was in this way that bhaktism, reincarnation, concept of reincarnation and idol worship started to influence the mainstream religion, that is, Brahmanism. So here, my students, I have to draw the attention to the phenomena again. There, there were the question ki bhoot kola. Bhoot kola means ki in South India or in the Tulu culture, that is the part of Tulu Adivasi culture. And some you can say Chetan Ahimsa, he is an activist and Kannada actor. So he has expressed his view. It is not the part of, Hinduism, but later it was a local Adivasi culture. Here I have to draw to the attention, Chetan Ahimsa may be different. Why Chetan Ahimsa is making such a statement, and what is the basic concept of Rishabh Shetty, who is right. So in the end of the lecture, I think you will be yourself clear, and I have always, I think in humanities and social sciences, everybody should be given the right to express their views. No one should be forcefully stopped, and there is no question of the legal battle at all, because this is the question of discussion and debate, and it is through the healthy discussion and debate that I can have, and we can have you can say, the better picture of the truth. That is clear. So here the point is, here the Chetan Ahimsa is talking about the assimilation of the local Adivasi culture or the Tulu culture. So here I have to draw his attention to the phenomena, what happens in case of in post-Maurya period. Bhaktism, this idol worship, the concept of reincarnation. If you are living the concept of reincarnation, at least idol worship and bhaktism, they are the part of the same Adivasi. Because here you can find the phenomena. You find about a god of Vasudev Krishna. So cult of Vasudev Krishna was prevailing in Mathura region, and they were, according to the text of history, because it is crystal clear, you will go through the pages of history. So they belong to the Vrishni Nayaka, 5 Vrishni Nayaka, Krishna, Vasudev, Sankarsan, that is Balaram, Shambh, Pradyumna and Anirudh. And later they came to be worshipped. So this cult is known as the Bhagavata Dharma and the worship of Vasudev Krishna. So he was a local tribal god. But later he was assimilated with another tribal god who was being worshipped in the foothill of Himalayas. That god is Narayana. He was the god of the, you can say, cattle breeders. So cattle breeders were worshipping him as the personal god. So this cult of Vasudeva was assimilated with the cult of Narayana. And it was the time, you can say, the appropriation of Brahmanism by this cult through placing Lord Vishnu above them. So there was the assimilation among 3 gods, Vasudeva Krishna, Narayana and Vishnu. Thus emerged the Vaishnava cult. Where the point is that if you are talking about the Adivasi culture, so what is the question of the Aryan culture and non-Aryan culture, or Aryan culture or Adivasi culture? I will make you clear that there is a simulation between the North Indian, South Indian culture as well. First of all, you should know that in the rise of Hinduism, in the rise of so-called Hinduism, both Aryan and non-Aryan cultures both played the equal role. There is no question of this belongs to North India, this belongs to South India. So the history will make a judgment of it. We are just coming up to this point, So then Bhaktism, reincarnation, and the idol worship influenced the Brahmanism. You will find the rise of Vaishnavism. In Vaishnavism, you can say a simulation between Aryan and non-Aryan god. Same happens in case of Shaivism as well. Because Pasupat, you might have heard about Pasupat Shiva. Just recall, when did you hear about Pasupat Shiva for the first time? It was during Harappan civilization, the worship of Pasupat Shiva. And when you come to know about Rudra, Rudra was a god, that is the Aryan god. And first of all, you will come to know about Rudra in Rig Vedic period. But from Rig Vedic to later Vedic period, up to later Vedic period, Rudra emerged to be the important god. And now there was the assimilation between Pasupat Shiva or Shiva and Rudra. So as the result of the assimilation of Shiva and Rudra, there emerged the so-called Shaivism. So Shaivism came in North India in this way. It was the period, there was the composition of Puranas. Previously, in the polytheism to monism, what you just observed in Vedic religion, so the basis of the religion was Vedas. Now emerged Puranas. And Puranas itself was, even in NCERT book you will find that, the Puranas itself was the assimilation between the great and the, smaller, the elite and the folk culture. The elite culture and the folk culture. The Brahmanic culture and non-Brahmanic culture. So Puranas were representing both the cultures simultaneously. So that's why you find in the Vedas were not allowed for Shudras and women to read. But it is not the case of Puranas. Puranas were allowed for all, Then you come to know in local cult, B.D. Chattopadhyay. B.D. Chattopadhyay in early medieval age, he has made this point clear. B.D. Chattopadhyay has made this point clear. In fact, he has given the concept of an integrative state system. He told that there was the expansion of the Aryan culture and there was the assimilation between Aryan and non-Aryan culture, Aryan and non-Aryan elements. So in state formation, there was the state formation in the tribal areas and the rise of the new kings. So it was the time there was the assimilation of various tribal gods into Aryan pantheon. He is giving the example of even Jagannath god. That is the reincarnation of Lord Vishnu. You come to know about 10 reincarnations of Lord Vishnu and 28 reincarnation of Lord Shiva. In Lord Vishnu, just, recall, what is a boar? You can say the man loin reincarnation. What you fish? What do you find? There is some Aryan gods and some non-Aryan gods. So there is no question of it was the purely Aryans. It is definitely as the result of cultural assimilation. And the same trend is visible in Gupta period as well, Gupta period. In Gupta period, there was Brahmanic revivalism. So there was a revivalism was the revivalism in the, you can say, cult of sacrifice as well. But apart from the cult of sacrifice in Gupta period, Bhaktism became a very dominant trend in the field of religion. There was the rise of Vaishnava Bhakti, Shaiva Bhakti, and the Brahmanic gods and the idols of Brahmanic gods were placed in the temple, and temple cult started in the formal sense during Gupta period. So you started as polytheism. You started as, a god in shapeless form up to monism. So you have observed here polytheism, Casnotheism, monism, and then comes the turn of Bhaktism, idol worship, the concept of reincarnation. All are the part of what you know as latter. Later they will be recognized, because here you cannot use the term Hindu so far, because Hindu term was being used in geographical context. I will make you clear. But let me finish it, how the religion evolved further. Up from Gupta period, a new trend was visible, as Tantricism. So even in the evolution of the trend of Tantricism, here the tribal elements were playing their role. It is some sort of animism and Tantricism, you can say. So, the different sorts of rituals became the part of the religion now. And up to post-Gupta period in North India, we'll come to know that Tantricism became dominant. In Brahmanism, there was the rise of Kapaliks and Kalamuks, the worship of mother goddess, you come to know. And if you are just observing here Buddhism, so a new sect emerged. You might have heard about Vajrayana sect. And even the worship of Yakshini started. Here I have to make you clear. If you are just talking about the tribal culture, so make me clear, the worship of Nag-Nagin, the serpent god, and the worship of Yakshini, they became the part of the Aryan pantheon. And this became possible from post-Maurya period onwards. Yakshini. Who were Yakshini? They were semi-gods. So what is this? Assimilation of, once again, the assimilation between the Aryan and non-Aryan alien. The tree cult, the animal cult, all became the part of the same Brahmanic cult or Brahmanic religion. So in this way, the assimilation was going on as a result of the assimilation between the Aryan and non-Aryan aliens. Then comes the turn of South India. Up here we have to underline here, in the North and South, there is no contradiction. We are culturally, you can say, I'm not talking in terms of uniformity. There is the cultural diversities in India. But in spite of the diversities, there was you can say, communication among different cultures. And these communications were going to influence the character of each other. Here I will give you the example. Whenever there was the rise of Brahmanism, Buddhism, and Jainism in North India, so they traveled to South India. You might have heard a story, Rishi Agastya. If you people might have a story, how did Rishi Agastya compel the Vindhya mountain to cut its size down? So you might have the story, and still the Vindhya mountain is just waiting for the arrival of or the return of the so-called Saint Agastya. So Saint Agastya was associated with even the Sangam literature in South India. Saint Kondinya, he was from North India. So he became the mythology of the part of South India. Brahmanic gods and the South Indian gods. South Indian gods, you will find that in Sangam era, you will come to know about the Sangam period, and the Sangam culture emerged in the Tamil region and Kerala region, So in Sangam culture, there were some local gods. For example, you can say there was a local god Mayan. So Mayan was assimilated with the North Indian god Vishnu. There was a local goddess Kornabai. She was assimilated with a goddess in North India, that was Durga. Likewise, you can say that there was a local god in South India. You might have heard the very famous god, that is, Subramaniam. And so he was associated with, assimilated with a North Indian god, Kumar Kartikeya. To my students and viewers, here the assimilation was going on. Likewise, what you know as Bhaktism. So Bhaktism emerged in North India, you find in post-Maurya period and Gupta period. But if you are coming to post-Gupta period in South India, particularly post-Gupta period in South India, in post-Gupta period, South India will come to know that is Bhaktism traveled to South India. You might have heard about Alvar and Nanar Saint. Alvar Saint was the worshipper of Vishnu, or Nanar Saint was the worshipper of Shiva. Both were, you can say, actually, how did Bhaktism first travel from North to South India? We'll come to know the Bhaktism based on Puranas in North India, they traveled to South India. But in South India, Bhaktism just changed its complexion, changed its, expression, changed its, the basics, content and substance. In what way? The story was the same Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, they became basically the center of worship. But the mode of worship, you can say, drastically changed. Because in North India, you can say Bhaktism was not having such you can say, such a deep emotional fervor as you find in case of South India. In South India, particularly under Alwars and Nanars, Bhaktism just assimilated a very deep emotional fervor. And how was it possible? In history, you will come to know, in fact, there was the, you can say, composition of Sangam literature during the early Christian century. Sangam literature means Tamil literature. You will go through the history of South India, will come to know about the the mythology of the three Sangams, the three confluences of poets, and there a number of literary texts were composed. So these texts came to be known, came to be associated with Sangam literature. So this Sangam literature, which were in actual sense compiled during early Christian centuries, so they were having the strong elements of love. Basically, they were the literature of, in fact, this represented the literature of love and war. So the elements of love from Sangam literature started to influence Bhaktism now. So Bhaktism definitely assimilated a very strong elements of emotional fervor. So in this way, in South India, Bhaktism was transformed. Then in early medieval age, you will come to know. Early medieval age. Up, you know, this Bhakti movement was started by Alwar and Nanar saint, the worshipper of Lord Vishnu and the worshipper of Lord Shiva. But very soon it was now the Brahmanic elements entered into it, and you will come to know about a number of acharyas. So Bhaktism was once again transformed under the hand of acharyas like you can say Ramanujacharya, Yamunacharya, etc. Particularly here I have to draw the attention to the phenomena. Shankaracharya, who was from Kerala, he was given the title of Handav Dharmodharka, means the restorator of Hinduism. So how can you say that Hinduism is the phenomena of North India simply, and there was the question of local culture? Shankaracharya did a great job when he just revived, Adi Shankaracharya revived the so-called Vedantic philosophy, which was thrown into oblivion during this period. And he again he reasserted monism of Upanishads. In this way, you can say that this was the contribution of Shankaracharya. But definitely, or you can say that although indirectly Shankara's philosophy might have helped Bhaktism, but indirectly, but directly it was in one sense neutralizing or discouraging Bhaktism. So Ramanujacharya just, you can say, brought certain changes in the philosophy of Shankaracharya into the new form of qualified monism. If the philosophy of Shankaracharya was monism, Ramanujacharya has propagated the theory of qualified monism, and the qualified monism, what you know, is Visishta Dvait. So Visishta Dvait of Ramanujacharya was conforming the basic tenets of Bhaktism. So Ramanujacharya became a great ideologue behind the so-called Bhakti movement, and this Bhakti movement became a very dominant sect in South India. It was the time this Bhaktism even influenced the local dynasties like Chola dynasties, Pallava dynasties, Rashtrakuta dynasty, etc. So these kings were the rising, and the different dynasties were coming into existence. So these dynasties you can say, consciously appropriated the Brahmanic cult as well as the temple cult in order to legitimize their position. It was the situation of Cholas at that time, you can say. So there was the construction of so many temples in South India under the impact of Vaishnavism and Shaivism. So this is the case. Once again, my friends and viewers, so in this way, the so-called, what is Hinduism today? Whether Vedic philosophy of Hinduism, monism, polytheism, Catholicism, idol worship, Bhaktism, all are the part of the same Hinduism. But here we have to be careful. Here the term Hindu has not exclusively been used for the religion at that time. When did this term Hinduism come into use? So I will make you clear very soon. Here presently you have to stop at this point. In this way, in South India, Bhaktism, a new cult of Bhaktism emerged. Not new cult, you can say new mode, sorry, because Bhaktism, gods are the same, the Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva. But here you can say mode of worship completely changed. Here the emotional elements became prominent, and then Acharyas even gave a support, and you can say gave some strength to Bhaktism through giving it a philosophical basis through qualified monism. Then Madhvacharya, different, you can say, Bhakta saints, they made their ideological contribution to Bhaktism. अब same Bhaktism appeared in North India. There is a very famous couplet by a scholar कि भक्ति द्राविड़ उपजे लायो रामानंद प्रगट किया कबीर ने 7 दीप 9 खंड. Bhaktism emerged in South India. Ramanand carried it to North, and then Kabir Das spread it to the vast region. So this was basically, this idea has been expressed by this couplet, which I have just told you in Hindi. So in this way, you can say Bhaktism came to North India. In North India, it took the two different forms that is known as Nirguna Bhakti and Saguna Bhakti. So up now you can say there was the cultural assimilation between North and South India. What you know as Hinduism latter, so who has made the major contribution, whether North India and South India, it is very difficult to decide. Now we are just coming to the next one. When invasion of Turks started in North India, actually Islam came to South India, but it was having a benign phase, because you know the Islam there came as the mercantile class. Mercantile class was carrying Islam to India. Earlier you can say some a very close friend to Prophet, they came to South India. You might have heard about it. Has stayed at Kerala. There was the building of some mosque, etc. But later you can say it was the Arabian merchants who just moved to South India, and they were active in South India. Later they were settled in the Malabar coast. But in South India, Islam was having a different and benign phase. But in North India, Islam appeared as in the form of Turkish invasion. So when the Turkish invasion started, so there you can say the North India was busy in fighting against the Turks, you know. But it was the time South India was expanding further. Under the Chola king Rajendra I, the Cholas were organizing expedition against Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka was conquered completely by Rajendra Chola, although initiative was first taken by Raja Raja. Then you know comes the turn of Sailendra Empire. The Cholan naval force, you can say, overpowered the Sailendra Empire in Southeast Asia, which was supposed to be one of the reputed empires at that time. In this way, you can say that the Cholas were progressing in South India when the North India was subjected to the continuous invasions from Ghazni and Gori. So you know this was the case. Now come to this point. So in this way, you can say that the religion, there was assimilation of, there was in the field of religion, there was the assimilation between tribal and non-tribal elements, North Indians and South Indian elements. In this way, this point is clear. Now, there is the case of Kamal Hassan statement, you know, the Rishabh Shetty, then you are coming the turn of Chetan Ahimsa, etc. So, keeping their statements in your mind, firstly, be clear. When did Hinduism start? Or when is Hinduism supposed to have started? So, keeping all these statements in the mind, we have to keep in my view. To my students and viewers, it is definitely a very debatable issue among scholars. There is no consensus in this regard. But here I am putting before you all the existing views, or not all the dominant existing views before you. The first thing is, in fact, most of the scholars, or a large number of scholars like W.C. Smith, they are having the constructionist view. Constructionist view means, according to them, it was the British or Britishers who have given a Hindu identity to the people, according to them. The Indians were given the identity of Hindus by the British. And Hinduism was the term coined by the British. So this view has been given by W.C. So this is called the constructionist view. Second one view is Indian agency view. So this view has been propounded by Romila Thapar, Gauri Vishwanathan, etc., some scholars. So they try to prove that simply British were not having the role in the coining the term Hinduism, but even here some you can say the Hindu and the Muslim leaders. So basically, as the result of the communal politics, they became much conscious about their communal identity. So they also promoted the you can say identity like Hindu and Muslim identity, and they emphasize over identity politics. So here the role was played by some Hindu and Muslim rulers as well. Here total discredit should not be given to the British alone, or the credit or discredit, whatever you may choose to say. Third view believes, which was given by a very reputed scholar who was having who was taking deep interest into Indian culture. You might have heard the name, that is Sheldon Pollock, and another scholar is Lorenzen. So they came to believe that no, what you know as what is known as the Hindu religion or Hindu religion. So Hindu religion was having a pre-modern identity. It is true. The term Hinduism in English, what you know, Hinduism, or the term like Hinduism, so that was coined by the British. Even Upinder Singh in her text, Early India, she has made this point clear that this term has been coined by the British, and Rajaram Mohan Roy has used this term in uh, 18th century. But here I have to make you clear, in 18th century, early 19th century. But here I have to make you clear, it is true that Hindu term was used for the first time in geographical context. It is correct. But it is equally true that when there was the advent of Turkish invaders in India, so after that, gradually, the prevailing religion in India, so they came to be recognized as the Hindu religion. Not exactly the term Hinduism, but it was being recognized as the Hindu religion. Whenever there was the advent of Islam in India, and when the conflict started between Hinduism and Islam, even Lorenzen believes that between 1200 and 1500, when there was the conflict between Islam and the you can say the pre-Islamic elements in India, so it resulted into the rise of the identity like Hindu and Muslim. So it appears that after the advent of Islam in India, the Hindu and Muslim identity started to crystallize in the in religious sense, not in as you know the communal identity, but in religious sense, Hindu religion and Islam religion. So such concept appeared after the advent of Muslims in India and after Turkish invasion. It is true. Here Lorenzen is giving the example. So far as the question of the Sanskrit text during this period is concerned, so Sanskrit texts are not using the term like Muslims. They are not using the term like Hindus and Muslims, you can say. They are basically using the terms like Turuska for Turks, Asupati, Dillipati like Mughals, but they are not using the terms like Muslims, or even the Yavan terms have been used, the Malekcha term have been used, whatever might be. In earlier you can say all the foreigners were called Yavan, Malekcha, whatever might be. But later you will come to know, when there was the rise of indigenous literature and Bhakti movement, so Bhakti saints started to use the term like Hindus and Muslims in their conversation. For example, you can find the name of Eknath. So Eknath started to use the term. Then comes the turn of Kabir Das. So Kabir Das, in course of criticizing Hinduism, Hinduism means Hindu religion, he just talked about a common Hindu or the uniform religious identity. In this way, a uniform religious identity started to crystallize in pre-British era itself, after the advent of Muslims in India, and up to 15th and 16th century. But it is equally true. When the British came to India, the British have overemphasized this identity. And when the census started, so British has just given the idea of a separate Hindu community. So because the census was being conducted on the basis of caste and religion, so there emerged a concept of a Hindu community. And once this concept was coined by the British, then even some Hindu nationalists just welcomed it in course of time, because after all, the British were giving some sort of identity, and this identity was representing a majority population in India. In this way, this idea was not opposed at that time. Then you may recall when the socialist reforms movement started under Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Swami Vivekanand, and various scholars. So these scholars were just talking in terms of the Hindu reforms. But whenever there is a question of reforms, you might have realized one thing. They were talking in terms of the legacy of Vedas. They denounced idol worship, priest class, temple cult, all were denounced, which started from post-Maurya period and on the basis of Puranas. And they tried to carry the religion to the pure Vedic religion, you can say. So that's why you can say Dayanand Saraswati has coined the term, or you can say gave the slogan, back to Vedas. Even Rajaram Mohan was talking about the supremacy of Upanishadic philosophy. Swami Vivekananda, the same thing was you can say they were just giving more emphasis over the Vedic model. And once you are going to deny the idol worship, the priest class, so obviously you can say the religion on the basis of Puranas onwards was going to be denied. But my students and viewers, even these reformers did not get success in their objective. They could not place Hinduism on their specific model. And Hinduism became the representative of the multifaceted culture of India. It was not representing a single one culture or single one religion. And today it is very difficult to decide what is exact Hinduism, either idol worship, temple cult, Vedas, which was not accepting idol worship, polytheism, monism, monotheism, even atheism, theism. What are exactly the part of Hinduism? It is very difficult to decide. Number one. Number two, it is equally difficult to decide how much contribution was given by South India in this field and North India itself. So it is now an immaterial thing whether a particular tribal god is the part of Hinduism or not, or particular king was the part of Hinduism is not. It is true, if the idea, or you can say for the first time religious term, the idea of Hinduism was crystallized after the advent of Muslim rulers in India. It is true in 10th century Raja Raj, whether you are just taking the example of Raja Raja, or you are taking the example of the Pala king or the Harsha, so exactly it appears to be anachronistic to characterize them as Hindus, because the term Hindu didn't become popular during this period. But it is equally true if you are going retrospectively what is Hinduism, so then all the cults are just prevailing under the purview of Hinduism. So in one sense, all are right. They are making the claim. None of them can be characterized as the totally wrong. In fact, it is very difficult to decide what is Hinduism and what is not. So that is the better option is. Last but not the least, I am just being a conscious citizen and in one sense the teacher or the student of history, whatever you may like to call me. I am just making a request that everybody should be given the, you can say, freedom to do the constructive criticism and to express their views. There should not be restriction over the views, because We argumentative Indians, right from the ancient period, so many sects were prevailing in India. And you might have heard about even the story of Sankaracharya and Mandan Mishra. So truth is not there, are the different facets of truth. So there can never be a consensus on the issue. I hope that such things should not create unnecessary controversy, either in intellectual circles or the in the filmy world or whatever may be. There should be the constructive criticism and the healthy discussion, healthy debate, but it should not take the ugly form, I hope. So, my students and viewers, you may be clear, in Hinduism, it is very difficult to characterize the religion, and in formal sense, the term Hindu religion came into use from uh, 15th, 16th century onwards after the advent of Islam in India, and the British tried to make it more crystallized as a community. It is equally true. So on this basis, if you are calling or characterizing any specific period prior to 1500 BC or 1600 BC as Hinduism, so that appears to be a bit difficult to accept, but it is equally true. If we are just characterizing as Hinduism as a religion, it was having the same feature, the same temple cult, whether Shaivism, Vaishnavism, all the part of the same Hinduism. In some regions, you will find the conflict between Shaivism and Vaishnavism, but in some other regions, you will find the concept of Harihara. In the same statue, there is the representation of Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. But you can say the glaring example is Harihar Chhatra. That is, the fair is going on in a Harihar Chhatra in Bihar, Sonpur. So there you will find the temple where the Harihar, it was the name so called. So my point is that that's why the unnecessary controversy should not be created here. Now, last but not the least, I have to give you the idea in this regard. You just take the example of South India and North India. So both are having the equal contribution in the rise of Hinduism. So there is not the question of is suppressing one culture by other, because there is the proper communication between the two. It is true that Indian culture is diversified, it with the multifaceted. The South Indian culture was having its own identity, the North Indian and the different Northeast. So there was the different cultural milieux in India, not a single one or uniform. But it is equally true that there is the communication among the two or among all the cultures. You will find the proper communication among the different cultures. And one important thing is that you are talking about Indian culture. So a term has been coined by unity in diversity. In fact, normally there is the common complaint by the scholars of South India is that the history is basically Ganga Valley centric, because Ganga Valley always try to appropriate the, you can say, the mainstream of history, and other regions are relatively neglected. So that's why they are much conscious about their identity. Their identity was being crushed, but it was not the case, you can say. And now the new historians are doing justice to all the areas of Indian subcontinent, and a lot of research has been done even in the history of South India. There was a case in 1950s, 1960s, even 1970s, but particularly after Nilkant Sastri, Srinivas Iyengar, they have done a lot of research in the history of South India. So now this case is not visible here. So now I am stopping the lecture here. So I think you may have got the idea ki what is Hinduism and what is not. I just appear once again in another lecture. Thank you very much, my students and viewers.